100% we're gonna
Go ahead.
upload this.
Start. What you mean you don't know if you're gonna? Come on, bro. Cut it out.
I don't know if it's gonna see my screen.
Huh?
As I
You
don't
want
know if
me
it's.
to? You want?
Record the audio, Aki.
Oh yeah, yeah, true, true. So basically, as you can read on the screen, it says Al Malik.
Spotlight.
Oh yeah, we're gonna see. We're just going to have a little discussion. You know what I'm saying? Not a master class. You know, this is just the introduction. So as you can clearly see, it says Al Maliki fixed circle, and it says what we're going to talk about. So this is just going to be over the next course. You know what I'm saying? Probably this one we're just going to speak on Imam Malik because I don't know how long it's going to take. Then we're going to talk about what is fiqh because you know you can't study something if you don't know what it is. You have to define it to have a better understanding. And then we're going to talk about the spread of the Maliki madhab. I'm going to invite somebody. I forgot to invite him. Hold on, let me invite him. I just remembered. But anyway, we're going to talk about the spread of the Maliki madhab, you know, how it got to your hands, you know. And that's going to, you know, there's certain countries that are Maliki, some countries that are not. And that's going to be a, you know, a cool discussion to have because, you know, it's going to let you know about a lot of different, you know, conquerors, kings, you know, Usman Danfodio, you know, Brother Hanif like to share from him a lot. He helped spread the madhab a lot as well. And we're going to get into the book, Muqaddima al-Izziya. So somebody just joined in. I don't know if you can let them in or they just fall in because I never really. Okay, never mind, never
You
mind.
probably have
She
to let
can.
him in.
She. It
But
says
okay,
the Dariya Muslima.
yeah,
I
that's
guess
the
she
sister.
came in by herself. So I'm just gonna do a quick recap. As you see, we're just gonna talk about who is Imam Malik for this lesson. Then next, we're gonna get into what is fiqh to define it. Then we're going to get into the spread of the madhab, the different kings and leaders of jihad that help spread the religion, and just those who preach as well, because both are ways to spread the religion. And we're going to get into the actual book, Muqaddima al-Izziya, you know, break down the actual text. So let's get into my slides. So we start off by saying Imam Malik is the founder of the Maliki school of law. You know, I noticed you said school of law. It doesn't say school of aqidah. Take that down because you know he didn't come with a new aqidah. He didn't come with a new belief or anything like that. He just came and helped codify the fiqh, which is the understanding of how to apply the religion. And this is going to be based upon the book Madonna. So those who don't know, Madonna is one of the foundational books of the madhab. It details the opinions of Imam Malik. And a point that I would like to mention is that Imam Malik didn't create the school as in he didn't sit down and say, today we're going to make a new school of Islam. No, he just was a great Imam who preached. And from his preaching, he had a lot of students, and his students wrote down his beliefs. And that's how the school was codified. And Imam Malik, he's known as Sheikh al-Islam, Hujjat of the Ummah, the Imam of Dar al-Hijrah, and the star among the people of transmission, which is referring to the transmission of Islamic knowledge. And it also says the Hadith memorizer and founder of one of the four schools of fiqh, because you have the Malikis, the Hanafis, the Shafi'is, the Hanbalis. You have other different schools that don't no longer exist, like the Auza'i, the Laythi, the Jariri school, the Zahiriya, but those schools did not survive until now. So we just mainly speak on the main four because that's what's known, that's what's agreed. And if there's any comments in the chat or something, please feel free to let me know because I'm reading from this screen and I'm not having my Skype open up, so I don't know who if somebody joined in or not. So feel free to turn your microphone on anytime you want to ask a question or let me know something. But back to what I was saying. He is the founder of one of the four fiqh schools, the Hadith memorizer. He was a muhaddith and a faqih, so that makes him very unique. You know, he wasn't just a one knowledgeable on one subject. He was Sheikh al Islam. He knew everything about Islam and everything about every Islamic topic, whether it be language, whether it be history, fiqh, hadith, aqidah, all of that he knew. And he's known as a shining star because in my opinion, I don't want to make a definitive statement. I think that he was probably the most knowledgeable out of the 4 Imams. Imam Abu Hanifa was very knowledgeable, but he was in Kufa. Imam Malik was in Medina, but we're not going to get into that just yet. We're going to have a separate slide. I got to try to memorize my slides too, so you guys can read as I'm narrating. But we're going to go to the next slide, and it says here, Imam Malik was born in the year 93 Hijri in Medina, which is around 711 AD. The Prophet lived not very much before that. I forgot to add that into my slide. I should have added that, but it's not very much. It's right after the death of the Prophet. Not significant time period. In this time period, as the companions would have still, some of the companions and the students of the companions would have still been alive, just elderly, a little old, but they would have still been alive. There was never a break in the chain. And it says that he lived during the caliphate of Suleiman bin Abdul Malik, which is the 7th caliph of the Muslims, the Umayyad dynasty. And Imam Malik, he was born in Medina or right on the outskirts of Medina, but it's considered in Medina. And he died 85 years later in the year 179 Hijri, but that's 795 AD, which is Gregorian calendar, which is based upon the Christian calendar. And he died in Medina. So that made him similar to the Prophet, because the Prophet also died in Medina. And many of the companions and the students of the companions, they died in Medina. Go to the next slide. And that's very significant because, if the Prophet died in Medina, that means he also lived in Medina and preached. So that means his up-to-date practice, his up-to-date teachings, the up-to-date sunnah, the up-to-date knowledge was all held in Medina. Whereas other imams like Abu Hanifa was in Iraq, and that wasn't the up-to-date information from the Prophet. So there was always a delay because they didn't have telephones. So you had to get on a camel or something, or a horse. So there was a delay to get some of the information. But Imam Malik didn't have that issue. He lived directly where it was coming from. So we talk a little bit about Imam Malik, but we have to get into his family because, you look at somebody's family, it helps you know more about them, where they come from. Not to say that their family instantly tells you about them, but it's just something to know about. And we know about Imam Malik's family. They were religious people. They were people that are well known. They're found all throughout Islamic books. It's just we might not know their names. It says right here, Imam Malik, he originated from a family of ulama. They wasn't people that didn't know the religion. They came, we hear the term the Salaf, follow the Salaf. When they were living, there was nothing but the Salaf. They didn't have anything but the Prophet directly teaching and the Salaf. And one of his family members was his great-grandfather, whose name was Malik ibn Abi Amr. And he reverted to Islam during the life of the Prophet. So he was technically a companion of the Prophet, which is somebody that would have met him during the lifetime of the Prophet and believed in him until they died. So you meet the Prophet, you believe in him, but you stop believing or you become misguided, or like Brother Hanif quoted from Watiqat al-Ikhwan, if you oppose the messenger and you become astray, that wouldn't be considered a companion. So he lived, embraced the religion, accepted the message, and he died upon it. So that means you can take from him because, his deeds are already locked. Somebody who's alive today could always become misguided. But people who have died upon the truth, they can't become misguided. And, he was a companion. He died with Iman. And it's because of his great-great-grandfather that Imam Malik was born in Medina, because he made that decision to migrate to Medina and set the roots down. And that was a great decision because his great-grandson became one of the most influential people who ever lived in the world. So, maybe one of your family members, they might have migrated to the New York or California or Illinois. They came from somewhere else. And that influenced you because you have a new environment. So that was a very, very good decision. And the great-grandfather of the Imam Malik was not only a companion of the Prophet, but he was also a companion of the companion Uthman bin Affan, radiyallahu anhu. That, when Uthman died, he helped bury him. I actually misspelled it to burying him. I meant to put, I guess that's my accent came into play. He helped bury him. So I meant to put bury. So he helped bury him after he had been killed. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the Khawarij, the original Khawarij, who killed him. So please correct me if I'm wrong. And Malik ibn Abi Amr, he participated in every jihad, every military expedition. He never passed up a good military expedition, except for the Battle of Badr. And I don't know why I didn't have enough time to reference to figure that out, but I'm sure he had a good reason because evidently he wasn't afraid of jihad, dying in a fight of to spread the religion for Allah, because they were true believers. The grandfather Imam Malik was also a student, not just of the Prophet Uthman, but also Talha radiallahu and Abu Huraira radiallahu and as well for him. You hear these names a lot in Hadith, and Aisha, which is the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and radiallahu anha for her. Oh, and Aqil bin Ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu for him as well. And you see these names, this is the source of legislation for the Maliki Madhab. These are the people that you're getting your information from. Talha, Abu Huraira, Aisha, Aqil, and Aisha especially, and Uthman, And on one of my next slides, they're going to mention that the Maliki Madhab is known as obviously the school of Medina, but it's also known as the Madhab of Uthman because this is what was being practiced during his life. Some of the individual fatwa for Uthman has been used in the Maliki Madhab and its views and opinions, and also Aisha. And that's a very big deal because, the Shia, they obviously don't like any of these people. So people say, the Malikis praise Southern, some of the Shiites praise Southern, but the legislation is completely different. Besides praying with the arms down, there's nothing similarity between the Malikis and the Shia because obviously the Malikis are taken from Aisha, Uthman, people that the Shia make takfir upon. If you read at the bottom, it says Madonna fi Furu el Malikiya Sahanun. I have this book in my library, by the way, so that's where I got this information from. My next slide is intellectual capitals of Muslims throughout history. And this is very important because as I mentioned in the beginning of the lesson, Medina, I didn't go into detail, but Medina was the intellectual capital of the Muslims. At that time, the Muslims may have not been very large in number, but that's where all the information was coming from because the religion was just newly spreading. And as you clearly see, I put Timbuktu because it eventually got there. We're going to get that in the next lesson, how Islam came to Timbuktu. We have Baghdad, which is Iraq. A lot of people don't know that the madhab was actually very strong in Iraq. It was strong in many places. It just fell out of practice. And most importantly, Medina. This was the peak of knowledge. And the quote of Ibn Taymiyyah was that the school of Medina was the soundest of all the schools. So it was the best fit, the best understanding of the hadith. The hadith was written, the original hadith was written. They're being narrated from Medina. They just might have been compiled in Iran or another country. So I'm just going through my notes right here. And let me know if you guys can read my slides. I hope you guys can see them because I know some people internet might not be perfect. And I have it written here that it was narrated by Qadi Iyad. For those who might not know, please get to know him. He's he was a judge, if I remember correctly. He was a judge in Egypt. He was, of course, Maliki. And he was a very, very high authority in the Maliki Madhab. And he narrated that Imam Malik said that my mother would dress me up and say to me, go to Sheikh Arabia and learn manners before his knowledge. So that's a great lesson to learn, have manners and not just have the information. Some people have the information, but they lack in the manners. So we want to make sure that we be like Imam Malik. And it also shows you, like Brother Hanif said, somebody's microphone is turned on. So maybe he's asking a question. So I'm gonna mute my mic. Are you asking a question?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just about to say when you read the quote about his mother, that's a very good point that people don't pay attention to is that, like you said, the scholarship of the family, to look at the encouragement that his mother gave him. because I remember I was told a story that Imam Malik originally wanted to be like a singer or something, like an artist. He wasn't really interested in seeking knowledge, and his mother was one of the big influences that pushed him to learn. So it's a really good point that you brought that up, and it shows the importance of us as men finding good, righteous sisters. Look at what his mother, the influence his mother had on him, and look where he became. It's not just about the man raising the child, but it's about having a good woman to help to maintain your household and encourage your children upon seeking knowledge. Because as the Ulemas say, the rights of the child starts with the womb you choose to place your seed in. So when you're looking for a sister, you're looking for a wife, these are the kind of qualities you want. A woman that would encourage her child not to just pursue like a fruitless goal, but to seek knowledge of the deed and to become great as he can possibly be. So I just wanted to make that point. I thought that was a really good point. Mashallah. Shukran.
Oh, thank you very much, man. That was a great point, and that's definitely what I was thinking. And you expounded that a lot, and just shows you it's almost like an investment. They had a good idea for their kids. They invested in the knowledge and who they wanted their kids to be. Sometimes, unfortunately, in our times, people don't think about when the child is a baby, what's 10 years from now, and the next 10 years, and the next 10 years. So it seemed like she invested in his knowledge. I want him to be knowledgeable. At least if he can't become a scholar, have manners. I mean, implement the religion. But he got both. He implemented the religion, had great manners, and learned very well from Rabia and many other people. So that's definitely. I think we have a sister in the chat. So that's a very, very good thing to look into, to make sure we put the information in front of the youngsters' eyes. And it's mentioned that is found in Tartib el Madarik. I believe that's volume 1, page 130. So if you want to do a background check and read the whole page and get more information. And I've written here, Imam Malik was educated by over 700 instructors. So that right there is just crazy. Over 700 people taught him. And these were people from the intellectual capital of the Muslims, from where the Prophet gave his most up-to-date information, up-to-date sunnah, where the religion was the most pure, the most strong, and it was in a time period where not even 200 years had passed by since the death of the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even if the Prophet had died, those who learned from the Prophet, like the companions and the students and the companions, were still alive. So this was very, very pure, fruitful information, and over 700 people taught him. And half of those who taught him were tabi'un, meaning those who, they studied from the direct water source. And among the many teachers of Imam Malik was Imam Nafi'. So this is a name that if you don't know, I don't know if you're taking notes. This is recorded. We're going to figure out where we're going to put it on YouTube or what we're going to do with this information. But definitely take that name down, because that's a big information, and it's a big name in the madhab, in the book of Muwatta. And Imam Nafi' was a student of Umar for over 30 years. So, some people study for 3 months, 3 years, 10 years. It's one of the teachers of Imam Malik studied for 30 years with a companion who lived with the Prophet. He was there when the revelation came down, and he was a witness, and he's also promised Jannah in Quran. So imagine that, studying for 3 decades with somebody promised Jannah. So that's just unbelievable, ridiculous, that it's hard for us to comprehend. And that was one of the most prolific teachers of Imam Malik. And that, like I said, a hadith from Malik, I'm sorry, I'm not from Malik, from Nafi' is considered as the most valid hadith that you can get. In brothers' hadith class, we did mention the golden chain. We're going to get into that later in this as well. But just kind of emphasizing that Nafi is not just a great man, he's the greatest source of hadith that you can get in the Islamic religion. And Imam Malik was a student of him, who was a student of Umar for 30 years. So I hope I'm kind of hammering this in your head, how pure the Maliki madhab is, because people think that there's no dalil or the Malikis don't know what they're doing, and that's far from the truth. The Maliki madhab, from what I'm looking at, is the closest to the Sunnah, with the highest level of authority and chains and everything. And the other madhabs are also great as well, because they were students of Imam Malik or students of the students of Malik. So all of the madhabs are connected. I'm just emphasizing the greatness of the Maliki madhab because you guys are Maliki. And also, as I said again, the madhab of Umar for 30 years. And I've written here at the bottom, Ibn Mas'ud, he influenced the Hanafis. So the Hanafis, they also had a closeness to the Prophet as well, just different people. The Malikis had more and higher chains. But if you wonder, Malikis take from Umar, they take from Aisha, Talha. The Hanafis, they get their religion from Ibn Mas'ud. That's where most of their deen come from. And that's why you'll see people pray differently or, have different things in their practice. All of it's the sunnah is just from different people. The Malikis have a bigger, complete picture, though. And another thing is that a lot of people may not know is that a lot of people believe this, that the prophet foretold the coming of Imam Malik. Prophets have prophecies, and they, with the permission of God, permission of Allah, they can tell you the future with Allah's permission. And as you read here at the bottom, it says, very soon will the people beat the flanks of camels in search of knowledge, and they shall find no one more knowledgeable than the knowledgeable scholar of Medina. And that's in Tirmidhi, and is narrated by Abu Hurairah. And we mentioned again that, his grandfather was a student of Abu Hurairah. So just showing you the close connection, how everything's connected like a spider web. And I don't know who other than Imam Malik was in Medina. The whole people traveled all around the Muslim world to get information from him. This is clearly mentioned in Imam Malik and also all the ulama of Medina, but especially Imam Malik. And about that, I'm just going through my notes here to make sure I don't forget any information. Yeah, this is a good point right here. It says Imam Malik, when people did come to him.
Quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Quick question. Where was that? That was in Tirmidhi. That quote.
Yes, it was narrated by Abu Hurairah, and it's in Tirmidhi.
Tirmidhi. Okay. All right, shukran.
I don't know if some stop, but I can't hear anything right now.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I muted my mic. I forgot to unmute it. Thank you right there, brother. What I meant to say, what I did say, but you guys didn't hear me, is that when people did, as the Hadith said, people would travel to meet the knowledgeable scholar of Medina. When they did do that, this is sometimes what would happen is that he wasn't afraid to say, I don't know about a question. And if you study religion, I'm sure all of you brothers, since you're students of knowledge, in your circles, people probably bombard you with a lot of questions. And it's narrated by Sheikh al-Haytham Ibn Jamil. He said, I heard Imam Malik been asked 48 questions, and he replied to 32 of them by saying, I don't know. And this is in Al-Jami al-Bayan lil-Ilm al-Fadlihi, volume 2, page 25. So you want to go back and check it. And that shows that, even though he was even foretold by the prophet, had lots of knowledge, he couldn't answer every question. So, we also can't answer every question. So there's some things that we don't know, and that's okay, because Imam Malik surely knows more than us. So, you don't have to feel bad if you don't know. And this is another hadith that just emphasizes this. So this is from, to show you that these hadiths are narrated very widespread, and these are historical reports. It's narrated by Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, and he's reported that I was with Malik ibn Anas, and a man came and said, "O Abu Abdullah, I have come from a distance of 6 months of travel." So that just shows you this was difficult to do. So imagine traveling 6 months just for one hadith. Today you get every hadith on your phone. 6 minutes, you can download it. He said, I came from a distance of 6 months travel. The people of my land have issued to ask you about. Then Imam Malik said, then ask. Then the man asked him about an issue. Then Imam Malik said, I do not know about it. And then the man was speechless, because he came for a distance of 6 months to a man that he believed knew everything. And then the man said, so what do I say to my people when I return to them? Imam Malik said, say to them that Malik said, I don't know. Ibn Wahab said, I heard him many times saying, I don't know. So even for those who don't know, Ibn Wahab is one of the students of Imam Malik. You have Qasim, Wahab, many students. So if you read the high level books, you'll hear his name a lot. And hopefully I was not mistaken, but I don't believe I'm mistaken. I'm pretty sure this is the Ibn Wahab, student of Imam Malik. He said, I heard him, a man that's after Malik, can I hear him? So this had to be his student, Ibn Wahab. And this is also in the same book, Jami Bayan al-Ilm. And Imam Malik said, I don't know, many times. So now, as we said in the hadith, people would travel to him. So maybe you guys were wondering, how was a class with Imam Malik? Because right now we're having a class with a person that studies the words of Imam Malik according to his students. So how would it have been if you were in the class of Imam Malik direct? So that's a kind of an interesting question. And basically what they would do, as you see written here, hopefully you can see it, is that the classes had a very high production value. So that's why I made a slide. I want to be like Imam Malik. I want to make the classes fun, engaging, so that you don't feel bored. You have something to read. Imam Malik would put expensive carpets, so that's like make the tent look nice. They would spray perfume so it smells nice, and maybe they might have burnt incense or something like that. And Imam Malik, this is a very, very important point. So I hope you guys can pay attention to this, that when he would lay down those carpets and spray the perfume, he would be sitting in the chair of the second Caliph Umar bin Khattab. So imagine that. He's sitting in the chair that the leader of the Islamic State, the leader of the Muslims, the companion of the Prophet, Umar, would have used to sit in. That's where he would sit, and he'll narrate hadith. So that's just, for me, that was mind blowing. That like blew my head off. I'm like, wow, imagine that. That makes you extra careful because you're sitting on the artifacts of Islam. And this, the next paragraph, I mentioned that, when people would come to him, they used to argue sometimes. And one of the stories, I'm sure you guys probably heard this story, is that they argue about a mud. And for those who don't know, it's just like a place where you put water in, so a water pitcher. But it's a specific amount from the classical days, like you have cubits and things like that. They had a mud, and they would argue about how much is a mud, how many liters is it. And they went to Imam Malik and they questioned him, and they argued about it. And Imam Malik went in the tent. He came out, and he brought the exact mud of the Prophet, the exact water vessel that the Prophet would have used. So he's sitting in the chair of Umar. He's using the Prophet Muhammad's water vessel. He even lived in the house of one of the early companions. And I have to go through my notes. I'm going to find it later. I believe I mentioned, oh no, it's here. I forgot to add this in the text, but he lived in the house of Abdullah bin Mas'ud, radiallahu an. So imagine that. He's using the Prophet's water vessel. He's sitting in Umar's chair. He lived in the house of Abdullah bin Mas'ud. That's something that most people never knew about Imam Malik. Go ahead. Somebody's microphone is on. Is somebody trying to ask a question? I guess they're not asking a question. Maybe somebody just joined in. I don't have my Skype up, but I heard somebody's mic. But if you have a question, just let me know. And in these gatherings,
I think two sisters just joined. That's why I think the mic, they just joined.
Oh, okay. So I just do a quick recap for the people that joined in. Imam Malik, when he was doing his class, there's hadith that said people would travel to Medina to meet the knowledgeable scholar of Medina, that's the Prophet, for telling that the Imam Malik would be a great scholar. And that shows that he's approved by the Prophet because he fits that description. He would sit in the chair of, Umar. You have Abu Bakr, Umar, Ali, Uthman. He would sit in the chair of Umar when he narrated his hadith. And he used to make wudu with the exact water vessel of the Prophet. So people would ask him, how much is a mud? He wouldn't tell you a number. He would just bring out the water, Prophet Muhammad's water vessel, and say, this is what he used. So that was an amazing. And he lived in the house of Abdullah bin Mas'ud. So that's just 3 artifacts that he was constantly surrounded about. So just showing you that he was very, very close to the life of the Prophet. And in these gatherings, Imam Shafi, he was an attendee and a student of Imam Malik. So I know we have a Shafi in the group chat, Wali. So when he sees this video, that'll be pretty cool for him to know that, the person of his madhab was a student of Malik and was in these gatherings. And Imam Shafi said, when we were in the gatherings of the Prophet, what he means is that his exact words were, we would be scared to turn the pages in our books in case there was a rustling sound. So that means, he didn't want to make noise when hadith was being narrated or when Malik was talking. So, even now, everybody's very respectful. Nobody's, cutting in. Everybody's asking or attentively listening or asking relevant questions. So that's the etiquette of the students when they learn from a teacher, even though I'm not at the level of Malik. And that shows you the respect that Imam Shafi had for Imam Malik, that they didn't even want to turn the pages in the book to disturb and make a big ruckus and to make a lot of noise. And there's a more narrations. This one is anonymous. I don't know who it's narrated by. Maybe there's a narration. I just couldn't find who was narrated, but it's a poet. And the poet said, if the Imam would stop giving an answer, meaning Imam Malik, the audience would sit with their heads down and no one would dare to ask a question again. He was held in such high esteem that he could be called the king of piety, stationed at the seat of honor, which is the seat of Umar. It is strange that the people would be awed by him, although he was not a king. So that just shows you a complete reverse. The students of knowledge, the imams, people saw them like kings, and they did not pay attention to rulers. Today, people pay attention to rulers and celebrities, and they don't pay attention to the people of knowledge anymore. Some people do, but I feel like it has gone down from this level of respect. And that just shows you the high chair was the chair of Umar. And even in the gatherings, you had some of the sultans of the Muslims. And there's another slide. We're going to get into that later, but big names. Imagine if, I don't know, one of your favorite Maliki scholar was in this live right now. That's how it was with Imam Malik. Big name people was in the attendance. It was also said that if anyone raised his voice during the hadith session, Imam Malik would ask him to lower his voice, and he would quote the Quran verse, "O you who believe, do not raise your voice above the voice of the Prophet." So even after the death, meaning even the words of the Prophet, his exact speech, when somebody's narrating hadith, you should allow him to finish. And as you see, as I wrote, Imam Malik believed this verse was for the verses of the messenger, even once his voice no longer spoke, the information of the Prophet. So when the Prophet information is being spread, we have to respect and not interrupt, let them finish. And that shows the love and the glory of the Prophet Muhammad. And Brother Hadith mentioned in one of his lessons that the imams were very proactive at early age. Imam Salih ibn Abi Zayd was written by a 17-year-old from Tunisia. He wrote a book that we're studying, like Brother Hadith said, college courses are studying the book that they wrote when they was teenagers. By the time Imam Malik was 24 years old, the greatest hadith scholar, hopefully you guys don't see that, that's on Telegram at the bottom, the news, hopefully y'all don't see that, the notification, but it said that the greatest hadith scholar in Kufa, which is Iraq, that a year after the death of Nafi, you remember Nafi, one of the teachers of Malik who studied for 30 years under the companion, when I came to Medina, I found Imam Malik have a substantial circle of students. So even when the greatest muhaddith of Iraq came to the Medina, which is today is Saudi Arabia, but Medina, Imam Malik was already a teacher by the age of 24 years old, and a significant teacher, because you couldn't be an ignorant person to teach in Medina. You had to be, today you'll be Shaykh al-Islam if you're alive today, the greatest scholar alive today if he was alive today. And by 25 years old, he was already a faqih, he was already a muhaddith, he already memorized the entire Quran, and he devoted himself to learning hadith, learning fiqh and the Islamic sciences, even language and all of those things. And he, as I written, developed a profound mastery. He was a master of fiqh, not just the person that knew fiqh. He was a master of fiqh, meaning he was, he became a mujtahid imam, when he can make his own opinions in religion. And he became the chief of all the scholars in Medina. So when you're following Imam Malik, just know he was higher than every other scholar in Medina. And that's one of the reasons why you follow him. And one of the, fruits of his scholarship is that he wrote a book called Al-Muwatta. And if you see the picture on the screen, that's my personal copy. I scanned it for the lesson so you guys can see, because I love to scan books and give you the exact pages so that you guys can come back and watch it. And for those who don't know, I think everybody knows, but it's a book of hadith, which predates the 6 known books. So you got Bukhari, Muslim, Nasa'i, Musnad Ahmed, Tirmidhi, as we quoted earlier. The Muwatta of Imam Malik came before all of those. And it's the, I'm not going to say it's the strongest book of hadith, because people have difference of opinion. Somebody's microphone just came on. Maybe somebody just joined in. Oh, you go ahead.
The majority of the Muwatta is in Bukhari. A lot of the Muwatta is in Sahih al-Bukhari, and Bukhari, as well as Muslim, took the principles of relating hadiths from Imam Malik because of his scrupulousness with how he related hadith. And I just wanted to say, when you were speaking before about the scholarship of Medina, it's very important to note that in order to even sit in any circle of knowledge, you had to know at least 10,000 hadiths with the full chain, at a minimum, 10,000 hadiths with the full chain to even sit with like students, let alone sit with the sheikhs. So the level of scholarship was like extremely, extremely high. That's all I wanted to say. Mashallah.
Thank you very, very much for that. I didn't know that. So that's, and I believe Imam Malik definitely knew 10,000 hadith. So he definitely made the cut. So yeah, the scholarship of Medina was crazy. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And yes, the hadiths that are found in Muwatta, they are found in Bukhari, Muslim. And just like the brother said, you know, it was such a scrupulous book that they took those principles into Bukhari. Not that there's a competition between the books. I just wanted to mention that, you know, it has one of the it has the highest hadith chain. The other chains are also valid as well. I just wanted to mention that point. And as you clearly see in the yellow, if you can see my screen, the chain is from the Prophet to Ibn Umar to Nafi to Malik. So, and you got to realize that, you know, these people were alive during the same, you know, era. You know, there's not like 500 years, 700 years. No, they were all alive in the same era. Nafi studied with Umar. Malik studied with Nafi, and then Umar met the Prophet direct. And there's at least 80 hadith having this exact chain in Muwatta. And Imam Malik spent 40 years editing, codifying this masterwork at Muwatta. And what makes it, I believe, if I'm correct, it's called Muwatta because it was approved by 70 jurors of Medina. So some of the highest, just like the brother said, they knew more than 10,000 hadith. They approved it. So you have to have a lot of knowledge to be approved, and they were approved the book. And the book originally had 10,000 hadith, but after critical analysis, they dropped 8,000. And now, there's different copies, but what I'm referring to is one of the copies have 1,720 hadith, so only the most high tested, trusted hadith. So when you read Muwatta, you can feel safe when you follow the narrations in it. So the next one thing I can add, just to do quick, is that you know, Imam Malik did not ride beast in Medina, you know, because the Prophet Muhammad was buried in Medina. And even when he was an old elderly man, he refused to ride a beast. So that just shows you that this is a person that won't even ride a donkey to get around. Yet, somebody actually made a chat. Excuse me, let me see. The sister asked a question. She said, "Assalamu alaikum, akhi. Can you re-explain how following Imam Malik radiyallahu anhu school of fiqh is the closest to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam?" For my sister who just joined, excuse me. You asked that question. No, you just asked it just now, 1 minute ago. Um, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Maybe you could help me out. But what I said was that you know, Medina had the most knowledge out of all the different schools. If I just go back a couple slides to help our sister out, you know, the intellectual capital of the Muslims was Medina. This is where the companions lived, where the Prophet lived. When he gave sermons and he did Jum'ah, he held the prayer. He did it in Medina. You know, it wasn't in Baghdad, it was in Iraq, where the Hanafis got their information from. Um, and you know, his family members all were educated directly. So you see here, Talha, Abu Huraira, Aisha, his great grandfather were students of Aisha radiallahu anha, Aqil ibn Talib, Uthman bin Affan. All of these people directly learned from him, and they all lived in Medina. You know, none of them lived out of Medina. So that's one of the reasons why the Maliki madhab is, in my opinion, the closest to the Sunnah. But I think it'd be hard to come with a different view than that. So
That's why Ibn Taymiyyah said, because Medina was basically where the Sunnah was like pure. As Islam spread to Iraq and different parts of the world, the authentication of hadith started to become less important. The opinion started to become more prevalent. Fabricated hadith started to be more prevalent. In Medina, that never happened. There was no hadith that was going to be related that wasn't pretty much Sahih or Hassan. Like the scrupulous, because they never left. They never left the Hijaz before the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam conquered Mecca. They went to Medina first. So when you read about the Ansar, who were the helpers of those who migrated, the migrators were the Muhajirun, who were basically kicked out of Mecca. And after they went to Africa, to Habashi, they returned to Medina and they were welcome. So that's where Islam was really codified. Even the Islamic calendar was started in Medina. So Imam Malik never left. It's basically the Prophet's city. That's why it's called Medina ad-Nabawiyah, the city of the Prophet. Medina means city. So when he says that it's the closest to the Sunnah, it in reality it is in that way, because the Sunnah, meaning the practices, the tradition, what was the actions of the Salaf, of the Sahaba at that time. Other schools may go more with, well, this is the opinion of what somebody said, but he went with what he saw. Like if you read the Muwatta, even in English, you'll see a lot of, well, the Sunnah with us. I never saw the scholars here do that. What I saw was the scholars do this. So this is what he means when he says, and even Ibn Taymiyyah wrote this about the fidelity of the Maliki school. So it's not that we're saying, oh, we're just better than the other schools. All the schools are from the Sunnah, but some are closer than others. And the Imam Malik school is very close to the pure Sunnah because of the fact that he never left the Hijaz, he never left Medina, and he never related a hadith that he did from a person who wasn't trustworthy or that really wasn't connected. The chains are basically the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahabas, and then the Tabi'een. So it's within those first 200 years, the first two generations. And as the brother Master said, they really weren't even that far apart in years. You know, your grandfather to you, to your son, kind of like that, like a family chain like that. So it's very, very close to the Prophet ﷺ because that's where he lived. That's where he was buried. That's where his masjid was established. Yes, Mecca is where the Kaaba and all of that is, but Islam, as far as the practice of it, was codified and established in the city of Medina. So that's why the school of Imam Malik is so rare, and it has that rarity that other schools don't have, because we deal with what's called amal, action. Because you haven't had hadith, what that might have been practiced once, but all of the companions might not have done that. But with Imam Malik, he's going to give you all of what he saw them doing. So when we pray Sadr with our hands to the side, this is what Abdullah ibn Zubair did. This is what Umar ibn al-Khattab did. This is what Abdullah ibn Umar did. This is how Ali prayed. This is how Abu Bakr as-Siddiq prayed. And the chain is like valid. This is a valid way. So that's just an example. So that's what he means when he says it's the closest to the Sunnah in that way, because we're practicing Islam. When you follow in the school of Imam Malik, you're practicing it like you lived in Medina during the time of the Salaf. That's exactly what it is. And that's the best way I could help to explain it. Mashallah.
Oh man, thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead. Somebody just raised their hand. Please please go.
Alaikum. Quick question for you. Why is it for Imam Malik, why did he pray with his hands at the side? Was there a reason for that, or what brought that about?
The reason is because that's how the prophet prayed. Oh, go ahead, brother Neef.
This your class, Shek. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Oh,
you got
okay.
It. Go ahead.
Well, basically, just like he was saying, the sunnah in Medina was the perfect sunnah, the most up to date. So what the prophet did, because there's abrogation things that in the early Islam or in the middle. No, this Medina is the most up to date sunnah, the most up to date information. When the Quran was codified, and the people in Medina, they witnessed the prophet practice the perfect sunnah continuously every single day until he died. And they witnessed the prophet praying with his arms down. So the simple way to put it is that's just how the prophet prayed. And you have the crossed arms. That's when he prayed the nafil prayers or the supererogatory prayers, or when you were tired when you pray. So when you look at fiqh books, it mentions that if you're praying like in maybe Tarawih or something like that, then you can lean upon yourself by crossing your arms. And I'm sure Brother Hanif would have said the exact same thing, but that's just how the prophet prayed, and that's what the people witnessed. But other schools, they might be narrating the hadith from another time, or they might miss the information that the prophet did the arms crossed, cupped, and other prayers. And Brother Hanif, if you want to add something, just let me know. And just let me know if your question got answered too. I think it's Brother Hums.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
Yeah, yeah. Don't misunderstand, Hamza. You can pray cold. You can pray with your hands folded, following the Maliki school. We're not saying that. It's just that what's called the mashhur, the popular opinion, the stronger opinion is that in the obligatory prayers we pray sadl, which means when it's called what is it? Sadl al yadain. It's like when your arms are at rest, based on a hadith from Abu Dawood, where one of the companions, he said to like 70 other companions, nobody knows the Prophet's prayer better than me. They said, oh yeah, we'll prove it. And he started to talk and describe the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's prayer. And he said he raised his hands to his shoulders and he said, Allahu Akbar. And then his arms went back to their natural position. What's your natural position? Straight down. So there are other narrations about called where they say, he put his right over his left. But here's the thing with that. Where did he put them? This is why you'll see some people put them on their chest. They put them on their stomach. They put it on the navel. There's no definitive hadith that says where he put them. And then a lot of people use the hadith where they say, well, he commanded the people to put the right hand over the left. But he is not necessarily the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you read the hadith, who is he? We don't know who that person was. This is a part of learning about hadiths and understanding the context and descriptions of what's called ilm al-rijal, the knowledge of the narrators. Who said this? Who's the person that commanded the people? It could have been a ruler. It could have been their imam. But people attribute it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't know that for a fact. But again, don't misunderstand and think that you can't pray with your arms folded, especially nowadays, because most masjids, if you go to a non-Sunni masjid, they don't have to be like Wahhabi or anything, but they may not be used to sadhu. They may look at you funny, or you don't want to put yourself in a position to be uncomfortable. So you can pray cult, but if you are practicing the fiqh of the school of Medina, you want to start to work. How I started doing it, what I was suggested to do from one of my teachers when I first learned, when you're doing your sunnah prayers or a nafila prayer, try to pray with your hands to the side and see how you feel. Because you're so used to praying folded, you're gonna be distracted from your prayer and obligation prayer when you first start doing it. Just try it here or there in your sunnah prayers or your voluntary prayers and see how it makes you feel. You may like hope better. The point of the prayer is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the arms where they are, that's just a fiqh issue. But in our school, yes, the strongest opinion that we go with is that we pray sadr with our hands to the side. That is the way the Malikis pray. It's something that we're known for in our school, but we're known for a lot more, as the brother is explaining. But I hope that I answered your question. I hope I answered the sister's question as well, inshallah.
You just confirm if your question got answered, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Jazakallah khairan, my bad. I was eating, my bad, so sorry I didn't jump on there.
Oh, no problem, man. Get your grub on, man. Risk from Allah.
No.
Enjoy it before Ramadan.
At that. Where he just his classes, brother. You don't eat while you learning, bro. You wait till after the class. No, I'm just messing with you, bro. Mashallah, do your thing.
Listen, I just worked 11 hours a day, so my daughter like, oh, we're going to the pizza shop, Dad. I was like, all right, me and the wife, we're all sitting here, so I appreciate y'all.
No, it's all good. Have that, bro. And enjoy your meal, bro. Mashallah. Go ahead, Matha. Continue. But
Please press the button to not have their hand raised so that I don't get confused. And just like the brother said, Sadr al-Yadain is also called Irsal al-Yadain, which is the opposite of Rafa al-Yadain. Rafa would be lift, so that Rafa al-Hadith, lifting the hadith, which is the filth. So Sadr will be the opposite. So Sadr, I guess you can say, just let loose, just let it be in its natural state. And that being said, just wanted to add on to that so that we get some Arabic terminology. And so this right here is going to be called the characteristics of Imam Malik. And you read right here, manaqib. So that'll be, just his way he looked, the way he talked, the way he moved. And I wrote here, hopefully you guys can read it. Just as the Prophet was a metaphorical manifestation of the Quran and the Sunnah, Aisha has a hadith that the Prophet Muhammad was the Quran. So if you want to know the Quran, you can just look at the Sunnah. What the Prophet did, how he lived is going to reflect the Quran, because he was faithful to what was revealed to him, because he was, in my view, infallible at transmitting the Islamic information, And Imam Malik was his spitting image, but not just the Quran Sunnah, but also the ways of Medina. So, he reflected what the people of Medina did. So if you ever wonder, I wonder how people prayed when the Prophet was alive after 1400 years in the future. How did they do 1400 years ago? You just simply look at Imam Malik. You will look at the book Madonna, which is going to detail what Imam Malik said and did. So that's just something unique about Imam Malik. He is Medina, the Imam of Medina. Imam Malik referred to the people of Medina as Ahlu al-Ilm. Ahlu means the people. So you can say, Ahlu Bid'ah, the people of Bid'ah. You could say Ahlu Iman, the people of Iman. So he referred to them as Ahlu al-Ilm. Ilm means knowledge, and referring to Islamic knowledge. Ilm al-Nafiya, beneficial knowledge, that's referring to the afterlife. And it's also beneficial in this life as well, because the Sunnah helps you and it protects you in your life. It makes you a better person, gives you a better life. And as I wrote here, he gave importance to the people of Medina in his ijtihad. in ijtihad is when he came to his opinions in religion. So if the prophet didn't directly do something, he would look at the people in Medina who learned from the prophet. And I think that was a very reasonable thing to do, and probably the smartest. There's nothing else that you could have done. There was no books of hadith written. The hadith was being practiced. There was no need for a book, and there was no need to step away from Medina. All he had to do was look at Medina and how they practice. And now we're going to get into, his actual characteristics. So you ever wonder what Imam Malik looked like? I always wonder what people look like in these books. It says Imam Malik was very tall, so he was a very big person. He had a very large body. And according to this particular biography, this is not Madonna. This is a biography of Imam Malik that I was reading. At least I don't think it was Madonna. I don't believe I took this from Madonna, but he was actually bald. I'm sorry, somebody's microphone.
That's the brother Rakib. He just joined. Mute your mic when you finish the lemon. That's the brother Rakib. Go ahead, Rakib.
Oh, okay. I guess he have a question.
No, I'm trying to mute it now. The call ended. I lost signal, so I had to call back in. I'm finna mute it now.
Oh, okay. No problem, brother. So Imam Malik was tall. He had a very large body. I mean, he was, I guess you can say wide shoulders, a big frame. He was bald and he had a large beard. So you could expect him having a large beard because that's part of being a Muslim. The Prophet had a large beard, and he wore the clothes of Aden. So this is a city in Yemen. I did a little bit of research to make sure that I was correct. And Aden is a city in Yemen, so he will wear clothes because in that time, I guess you say in our time, they say drip. That was the drip at his time, the best clothes that you can get, the best looking fabrics and designers. So it's okay to look nice. Looking nice doesn't contradict the Al Medina, which is the Sunnah as practiced by the Prophet. It's okay to wear nice clothes. It's okay to, smell nice when we go to the masjid. Imam Malik did this. And if we follow his madhab, we should look towards him and, his opinions. And from his actions, he wore nice clothes. So we should also do the same thing. And one thing I found very interesting is that you said Imam Malik was very light skinned. Maybe there's different opinions. I haven't really read anything other than this, but it mentioned that he was very light skinned. Some people say he was even blonde. He had blonde hair, which is very interesting. And Allahu Alam if it's true or not, but this is found in the biographies of Imam Malik. I think it's very possible to be true. Anybody can be pretty much any complexion. It also mentions that, he frequently wore perfume. He wore a beautiful turban. We don't wear turbans anymore. But actually the turban is the sunnah. And Imam Malik said it's kufr. It's kufr to make fun of the turban. So you laugh at the turban, that can be a form of kufr because that's the sunnah. In their view, it was the sunnah. Even in Saudi Arabia, before certain movements came and certain understandings of deans that kind of changed things up, people wore a lot of turbans. You go to Afghanistan, people wear turbans. You go to the Sahel, which is West Africa, right below the Sahara Desert, which is in between the places like Mauritania and Morocco, people wear turbans. So, if you can, please wear turbans because this is the sunnah. Imam Malik, he would wear beautiful turbans. So when you're doing it, you're emulating the mujtahid imams and who are emulating the Prophet. And it's not allowed to make fun of turban. You can make fun of an individual turban, but not the concept. So the same goes for the hijab, because that's actually disbelief. That'll be making fun of the symbols of Islam. And we definitely don't want to do that. And it also mentioned that he would wear the turban that will come down underneath his chin, like I say, the African style. So people in Africa wear that. And they also wear a garment, a shawl. So kind of like something that'll wrap around his shoulder blade. That's something that's from the old world, of course. It mentions that the character of Imam Malik, this is a difference. Okay, I'm sorry, I mentioned I confused myself. Imam Malik was very vigilant in seeking knowledge to the point where he sold the roof of his house made of wood and sold it to gain knowledge. So you think about that, he didn't live in Pennsylvania like some of us do, or Illinois, or wherever we live, Florida, Georgia, where there's plenty of trees. He lived in Arabia. So trees, I'm pretty sure, are pretty expensive and hard to come by. And he tore the roof off of his house to gain knowledge. And that's page 11 of Madonna. So you want to go back and read that. And Ibn Abi Uwais said, when the Prophet, when Imam Malik wanted to narrate a hadith from the Prophet, he used to do wudu. I'm going to read you his exact quote, actually. When Imam Malik wanted to do wudu, he would sit on top of his bed, comb his beard, and sit with dignity. They asked him, why did he do that? Imam Malik said, I would like to magnify the hadith of the Prophet and do not narrate except in a state of purity, meaning wudu. So what he means by magnify the hadith is to, his actions are going to show you the hadith is important. So if he's just narrating hadith with his feet kicked up, people would think it's the words of any man. But when you say, wait a minute, I'm going to narrate from the Prophet, pass me the mud of the Prophet, he make wudu, then that shows you and it magnifies the importance of hadith. And that's one of the things unique about Islam is that the Muslims still magnify their religion. You can't make fun of the Prophet Muhammad. People can even lose their lives by doing that. You can't make a joke on hijab. You can't joke about the beard and the turban. The Muslims, they go hard for the religion, and that magnifies it in the eyes of even the disbelievers. They make people want to know Islam. Why are people so what they claim is, fanatical? It's not really fanatical. It's just giving the right amount of love for somebody who deserves to be loved in that manner. Fanaticism when you give to somebody that don't deserve, like these politicians and singers. So it's showing you that your actions actually bring it shows the importance, and that's what Imam Malik, when he left behind, said he would comb his beard and do wudu. That's what he means by state of purity. So he'll make wudu. And also he said, go ahead, brother.
I wanted to say that this is a great point right here. Two great points. First, before this slide, when you said about perfuming himself and adorning himself with nice clothes, a lot of times we think that somebody seeking knowledge means you have to like be all dusty and ashy and you just got to be in the masjid all day and then basically be looking bad. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah loves beauty and he loves for beauty to be adorned on his slaves. So look at the sunnah, and I hope that sister's still in here. This is the sunnah. Look how he emulated the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He made sure that he kept himself looking a certain, smelling good. Also, that the angels around you, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the angels like what we like and they dislike what we like. They like the good smells. So your two guardian angels with you, they enjoy when you have perfume on it, and you're representing Islam. So you shouldn't be disheveled. You should take care of yourself. You should always be clean. And there's nothing wrong with having nice things. And then the second point is when you talk about his adab with hadiths. There's another story where Imam Malik was walking in the marketplace with a student, and the student had asked him about a hadith, and he said, I thought you were serious about learning. So he dropped everything he was doing. They go back to Imam Malik's to the masjid. Imam Malik puts on his best robe, his turban, he makes wudu, he lights some incense, he sits in his chair and he says, now we can narrate a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What the wisdom behind this is how much respect he had for the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what hadiths are. This is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's teachings to us. This is his words. These is his actions. This is his sirah. And we should emulate that. When you're about to read a hadith, make wudu first. No, you don't have to pray, but make wudu before you make dhikr. It's mustahab to do these things. You should emulate the righteous people. You should emulate the righteous scholars. So when you see them doing these type of things because they're emulating the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look at the level of respect that he had, that he wouldn't even narrate a hadith until he made wudu. And look at how Imam Bukhari took this from Imam Malik. They said before he narrated every single hadith in his Sahih al-Bukhari, he made wudu before each. He made wudu and offered 2 rakats before he narrated each hadith that he wrote. It's thousands of hadiths in Sahih Bukhari. That's thousands of wudus, thousands of prayers. How much barakat? Then look at the barakat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. It doesn't mean you have to go to that level because we may not have that iman or that dedication, but it's just to show you the discipline and the respect. Look at the adab in school. Imam Shafi'i was a great scholar himself, but he said even though there were other scholars in the ranks sitting with them, they didn't even want to make a sound out of respect. And this is why the ulama say that it's better for you to lose knowledge than to lose adab. It's better to have a little bit of knowledge and a lot of adab. Adab manners, having respect for your teacher, respect for what you're learning, making sure you're on time for the course, making sure you give the teacher one of my teachers said, when you're learning, no matter who you're learning from, nothing else matters but the imam, but the teacher. We don't scroll up and down your phone doing other things. We have terrible adab in the West when it comes to learning because we don't treat it with the respect is due. So this is a great point that you brought up about his character, and look at the attention he paid to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't even want his beard wrinkled. He wanted to heighten his level of understanding and implementing what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to do. So this is a great lesson for us to learn, to implement in ourselves, to make it a point to try to be in wudu and show respect for the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and respect for the sunnah. That's why he didn't like belittling and making fun of the turban, because you're making fun of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he wore a turban. When we call these sisters ninjas,
Somebody muted you, brother. I think she accidentally
Okay.
muted you.
Well, mashallah, I don't even know how she able to do that. But mashallah, yeah, that's all I wanted to say is a very good point. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, it's okay. So you just drop in the chat. You probably did that on accident. And I liked how you said he did thousands of wudu. Cause there's a hadith that is muttafaqun alayhi, which is agreed upon. That's in Bukhari and Muslim. That is the exact words is verily my nation will be called on the day of resurrection as brightly radiant from the traces of ablution. Whoever is among you is able to extend his radiance, let him do so. So you can be in wudu without even being dirty. So that's just something I wanted to add. And another thing is just like you said, he beautified himself. He made his beard even better because that could make somebody want to follow the hadith. If you're looking ugly and dusty, they might not take the deen as serious as it should. So that's just showing Imam Malik. And also I read right here that he didn't like to narrate the hadith while he was walking on the road. Um, it also says Imam Malik, he wanted the prophet to be understood because if you're walking or listening to music, you can't truly benefit. Because we're approaching a 1 hour mark, so I'm gonna go a little bit faster to kind of go through this. But please do add anything if you want to add. Because if you're rushing it, it devalues the hadith, and the people listening they don't realize how valuable it is, the information. It also says Imam Malik did not spit or wear shoes and would not prefer to even use the bathroom while in the walls of Medina. So he would leave Medina even to use the bathroom because the Prophet was buried there, so he didn't even feel comfortable um, to use the bathroom, whereas the Prophet would be, 30 minutes from where it's taking place at. And if you read this, it says Imam Malik was loved by even the ruling elite, the scholars, the ustads, the students of sacred knowledge. He was very well loved. And I wrote this part: who are more likely to imprison you? What I meant to say is imprison you today. Today, if you speak the truth, you go to jail very quickly. You can be assassinated. People who speak the truth sometimes don't last long. But Imam Malik was in a time where the people were more sincere. Even the leaders of the Muslims were very sincere, which is the opposite of today, where many people who are in position of power are actually fighting the religion. They're trying to minimize Islam as much as possible and pretty much harm anyone who's calling to the truth. And I want to add this quick point that the Caliph Abu Ja'far Mansur, who was the Caliph at the time of 140 Hijri, the Caliph, they came new caliphs pretty quickly during this time, that he was actually a devotee of Imam Malik. He appreciated Imam Malik a lot. And before he became the leader of the Muslim empire, he was a student of Imam Malik, meaning he attended his lessons. So when we mentioned that he would be sitting at the carpet, they'll spray the nice smells. Imam Shafi was there. Abu Ja'far al-Mansur was there. So the leaders of the Muslims were interested in knowledge. They wasn't just interested in trying to emulate Europe or emulate China and trying to suppress Islam. They were attentively listening to the students and the mujtahid imams. And I want to narrate something very interesting that he came to Imam Malik, and written here in red, he addressed Imam Malik and said, "O Abu Abdullah, I'm fed up with the differences in fiqh among the scholars. Iraq has nothing to offer. Syria just has a passion for jihad, and there's no real knowledge there. Whatever value is left is here in Hijaz, and you are the leaders of the scholars of Hijaz." So there was difference. So he was tired of the differences of fiqh. So he said, "I want to have the most qualified person." And he mentioned Iraq. That would be where the Hanafi method comes from. He didn't. I guess he felt like what's in Medina was better. And he mentioned Syria. Syria is where they did jihad. They were fighting against the enemies of Islam. And fighting, that's one thing, that's spreading the religion, but the knowledge wasn't in Syria. The Mujahideen were in Syria. The people who applied some of those ahkam, like the Bab of Jihad, they were applying the fiqh knowledge, but the knowledge wasn't coming from there. And he mentioned Hijaz, which means Saudi Arabia, or in the areas of Medina. Today we call it Saudi Arabia, but specifically Western Saudi Arabia. He was mentioning that Hijaz is where the knowledge is true. The true value is that, and Imam Malik is the leader of Hijaz, and he also offered to make the Muwatta the standard book of ilm and fiqh, and all the Muslims would follow al-Muwatta. But Imam Malik refused because he valued differences of opinion. So whereas Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, a student of Malik, said he was tired of the fiqh differences, Imam Malik, the teacher, didn't have a problem with the fiqh differences. He wanted there to be differences of opinion, and he didn't want everybody to just follow him. So now we're approaching the end of the lesson because I'm going a little over time now. I hope it's been done by 1 hour, but Imam Malik has got so much information that I actually skipped a lot of stuff because we have to do this one again for our next Sunday. We're gonna add a little more to this, but anyways, now we're approaching the death of Imam Malik, and Imam Malik died in the year 179, so about 180 Hijri, and he was sick for 3 weeks continuously. And the people will come to him, they will look at him, they will see that he was incredibly sick. And it became clear that he was no longer going to be able to survive and make it through the sickness. And and the scholars of Medina, they would check on him because scholars, they have edub, it's written in Bukhari that when people are sick, you visit them. And they implemented this hadith and they visit Imam Malik because, of course, he's going to die as well. So you want to try to get as much ahkam and learn the sunnah for him before he goes, because once he's dead, he can't transmit the knowledge no more, just his students. And when they came to check on Imam Malik, they saw that Imam Malik was crying. And this is very odd, as I put it in yellow. And because you would think that Imam Malik would be happy to die because he's going to go to Jannah. We assume that he's going to go to Jannah because the Prophet foretold him. The Prophet wouldn't have foretold the Muslim to go to somebody that was kafir or unqualified. So we're assuming that he's going to make it to Jannah because he's even better than us. Some of us, we're not even, we get sick and we make an assumption. We don't even cry. Imam Malik was crying. And Imam Malik explained why. He said his exact words translated in English is, "If I don't have a reason to cry, then who else does? Oh, how I wish I was whipped for every ruling that I had issued, and I had not passed any judgments." So he wished that he was not an authority in religion, because we want to run and rush to become authorities in religion, and we have a lot less knowledge than the mujtahid imams. Whereas Imam Malik, on his deathbed, in the biography of Imam Malik, he actually felt bad that he gave judgments. And as you read in what I wrote here, is that this was referring to the judgments of qiyas. Qiyas is analogy. So example is, if you can't disrespect your mama, you definitely can't disrespect your daddy. Or if you can't drink alcohol because it gets you drunk, then smoking weed also would be because it has a similar effect of intoxication. So that's what qiyas means, analogy. So drawing connections between two things and extracting a ruling from it. And that's what he was really referring to, because there's a lot of situations that might have came and you had to use qiyas to address new situations. And as I wrote, the reason why, qiyas is disliked, because when you make qiyas, there's always a chance that you can be incorrect. Even though you still get one reward, it just shows the fear of Allah that they had. Even when I'm right, if I'm not 100%, 1,000% right, I don't feel comfortable. And that's just how Imam Malik, because he was a person of taqwa. He was the king of piety, as we mentioned in our previous slide. And, that bothered Imam Malik a lot. He used qiyas sometimes. It's also written that Imam Malik departed from this life, meaning he died the 14th of Rabi al-Awwal in the year 179, the 22nd day of his illness. On the 22nd day from his illnesses, excuse me. And he was buried at al-Baqi at the age of 86 years old. And al-Baqi, if you look in the background of the picture, you can't see it too good, but it's a graveyard which is found in today's Saudi Arabia, where a lot of the companions and the great characters of the religion lived in Medina. They died and they'll be buried in Baqi, Jannat al-Baqi. And the governor of Medina, as I written here, came on foot to bury Imam Malik. He took Imam Malik's body, put it on his shoulders. And when Imam, and that just shows you again, like, they were sincere. Today, you die, some of them, they'll jump for joy and say, yay, because they're not interested in trying to spread the sunnah. They're more interested in trying to be like America or like France, emulate non-Muslim countries. But the governors of Medina at this time, they were helping bury the imams. And when Imam Malik died, it just was like when the Prophet died. When the Prophet died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Muslims felt drained and they felt gloomy because, they were not receiving any more communication from God anymore. And somebody who they loved, the Prophet, had lost his life. And when Imam Malik died, somebody that was explaining what the words of Allah given to the Prophet, had died. So now the up-to-date, perfect information of the Sunnah is lost. Somebody that they loved and they came to when they had issues, he had died, because these are pillars of their community. So one of the pillars of the community had died. And it was a very sad time. And one of the major scholars at the time when this took place, Sufyan bin Aina. I wrote this is an Arabic name, so hopefully I wrote it in English. I forgot the actual Arabic letters. he said he said exact words. Melik has not left an equal on the face of this earth. Meaning there's nobody that can carry on the legacy of Melik because it's impossible. He watched the Sunnah. I can never watch the Sunnah. I can only read about it and from those who did watch it. So his level of his Mujtahid Imam station was ridiculous and it's unrivaled. It's impossible to be like Imam Malik. And I just wanted to add this point right here as well. This is the legacy of Imam Malik, some of the things that he left behind when he departed from this world. So as we can clearly see here, he left behind Maliki fiqh. So Imam Malik might be dead, but his information, his scholarship has lived on. Even though I'm sure he said millions of things, only some of it was preserved. But that just shows you how much information and knowledge he had. Even just a little bit what he left is known today as Maliki fiqh. That was compiled by his students, practiced by hundreds of millions of Muslims, and ruled countless empires. So the Sokoto Caliphate, the West Africans in Senegal, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, North Africa, Morocco, the Ughlabids, the Almoravids, the even Egypt. Back in the day, Egypt was fully Maliki. Qadi Iyad was during that time. So the Malikis have a very prestigious lineage, and everybody in the Zoom is a part of it. He left behind Al Muwatta, which is the book of Hadith, and it was known at its time the most sound book after Quran. And he also left behind a culture that 1/3 of the Muslim world is following. So a huge chunk of the Muslims, even probably more than that, because other imams do reference Imam Malik, because Imam Malik was a mujtahid imam. So even other madahib, they will quote from Imam Malik. And this, these cultural practices, like the humane treatment of people, not thinking that dogs are najis, thinking that all animals are pure. These are all cultural practices that originate from Imam Malik, that originated from the Prophet. So his explanation of the Sunnah has influenced the lives of millions of people. Some people see a dog and they might kick it in the head. The Malikis won't do that because they know that dog is pure. You know what I'm saying? So that's just showing, how he has influenced the world into hundreds of millions of people. And imagine how many millions of people came from North Africa, West Africa, kings, singers. All of them are influenced by Imam Malik. And also I added respect from across the schools, meaning just the prestigious respect. When you say Imam Malik, people ears perk up. Even people that don't like madhabs, they quote from Imam Malik. They have no choice. And this is the exact statements of Ibn Taymiyyah, just like Brother Hanif had mentioned. And Imam Malik said his exact words is, their school, the people of Medina at the time of the companions, the followers and the followers, meaning the followers of the Prophet, was the most authentic among the schools of all peoples and other Islamic cities from east to west in fundamentals and jurisprudence. And the fundamentals and the jurisprudence would be the fiqh, the aqidah, the understanding of the religion. So this is my last slide. So there's now the microphone is given to you guys. You can please let me know what you guys thought about this. Was this beneficial? Did you learn a couple new things? Hopefully your love of Imam Malik increase. When we learn more about him, you have more reason to love him and less reason to doubt him, because people doubt Southern. They might doubt the one Taslim because they don't understand where it's coming from. So hopefully after this, there's no more doubtful understandings. So the floor is yours, guys.
Two things. First thing I have, are you able to send this slide or like this slideshow like within our group chat? That way, like we can like read over it as well. Are you able to do that?
I might be able to do that. I might have to make it a video and send it like in a video format, or just send
Okay,
all.
that'd be cool. Yeah,
It's
that
20
that that.
pictures.
Okay, yeah, that'll work. Yeah, that way, that way we can go back and reread it because when you reread something 2 3 times, other questions may come about. And then the second thing, that definitely very beneficial. This is one of the first time I'm really hearing in terms of like more in-depth information regarding Imam Malik. Now, are we going to get into some of his, like some of his practices and like kind of other things that differentiate him from the other, the imams, or or is just kind of just you're just giving like a general overview of him?
Okay, inshallah, I'm gonna return back to the first slide now. So yeah, inshallah, we can do that because next lesson is gonna be what is fiqh, and I guess when you start breaking down fiqh, you're meaning like in his character or what he transmitted and what he taught.
Yeah, I mean all that. Yeah, 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 absolutely. So this was just basically who is he now? Now we're gonna go into what is fiqh according to him, to Imam
Oh
Malik,
yeah,
right?
yes.
Okay, okay, okay. All right.
We definitely can add like a section, or I can emphasize on what differentiates him, and that's a very good point. And just to further show, because there are four different schools of fiqh, so I think that's a
Because
very good question.
like, and one of the reasons why I ask is like, so I took Shahada 5 years ago. So like within the last year and a half is when I kind of really became more of a practicing Muslim. So like when you visit different masjids, like you see some masjids where like the imam that he's like real strict on like feet to feet, shoulder to shoulder, and then other masjids like people are like running away, like they're like trying to like hide their feet, from touching or whatever. I didn't know if that has to do with like different schools of thought or where like those different things come into play at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and that definitely does go into the different schools of thought. Who they took from. Like I mentioned, Ibn Mas'ud. The Hanafis get their deen from Ibn Mas'ud. We get our deen from Medina, which is a compilation of hundreds upon hundreds of companions, students of companions. How you approach the hadith. The usul. Just like we said, what is fiqh. So we're gonna have to break this down. I'm glad you said this because we're gonna have to break this second lesson down into many different chapters. Fiqh, usul al fiqh. We're gonna eventually do all of that because we're gonna teach the actual books. This is just the introduction, because I'm not experienced in teaching. But all of that takes into account because Imam Shafi was a student of Imam Malik, and the way he used the Amal Medina was different. The way he approached the Hadith because it was different. The Hadith actually had been written and codified at that point, and how there's a book called The Four Madahibs. I recommend you getting that, and we're in the group chat, so I'll send that your way as well. And that's a very good question. And I saw Brother Hanif microphone was turned on, so please, Brother Hanif, go ahead and say what you wanted to say.
Well, keep in mind, Hamza, as we're studying, Imam Malik is who the school was based on, but the school is not Imam Malik. There have been hundreds, thousands of scholars since Imam Malik, rahimahullah, passed away. Even within the school, some scholars disagree with some of his views, some of his opinions. So as far as learning how he practiced, that's why we're doing you have the Maliki fiqh books, like you have Muqaddima Izziya, which the brother Musab is going to teach. What I'm doing on Saturdays, Muqtasar al-Akhdari, which is written by Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Akhdari. These are Maliki fiqh books for the beginner to teach you what are the rules for ibadah, for life, how we understand and practice the religion. It started with Imam Malik as far as his views, his teachers, and his students codified the school, as the brother said. So as far as like, don't look at it as, oh, this is just the whole school is just Imam Malik. No, there's been thousands of scholars. All those names he was named: Sahnoon, Ibn Wahb, Ibn Qasim. Imam Shafi was one of his greatest students. And then at a certain point when he went to Iraq and Egypt, then he started to develop his own school and changed his opinions that he didn't agree with Imam Malik on certain things. So all the schools that were founded were named after the founders of the schools by their students. Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, Imam Abu Idris Shafi, Imam Malik ibn Anas. But they are not just the school. The school was their principles of how they go about things is how it was built. But then there were other scholars within the madhab, then they all don't agree on everything that the founders said. So when you learn in Maliki fiqh, it's not just the opinions of Imam Malik. There are things that when you get into higher level books, like when we read Muqtasar Akhdari, that's Imam Akhdari's teaching you what he was taught about Maliki fiqh, which are all pretty much the standards. But then when you get to higher level books, they'll say stuff like, well, amongst our scholars, there's a bit of a difference of opinion on this or that. You see what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind, that when you're learning school. And as far as the foot to foot, that's a fake issue, but it's also culture. Some people's culture, they just not into the foot to foot thing. Sometimes it's prejudice, it's different things. My advice to you is the same advice I gave to my fiance. It's the same advice I was giving to myself. The ulama say, don't worry about when people moving their feet. Focus on your salah. Once you say takbir, Allahu Akbar, nothing else matters. Don't see nothing else. The Qibla is in front of you, death is behind you, Jannah's to your right, and Jahannam's to your left. Don't worry about who's moving their feet. Don't let it distract you. Yes, it's gonna bother you. You have to learn tunnel vision, because when you're praying, even when you're praying in congregation, it's you and Allah. The person who moves their feet away from you, the sin is on them, not on you. So when those imams are strict on that, it's because they're trying to implement the sunnah. These are lost sunnahs. Like before the prayer starts, there's supposed to be somebody to check all the rows to make sure that they're straight. And then he lets the imam know, and then the imam starts the prayer. These are all aspects of the sunnah that unfortunately have been lost nowadays. But I just wanted to make that point to you. We're all new to this. I've been Muslim for 23 years, and I just started learning Maliki fiqh 4 years ago, and I'm still, learning stuff. When I met Meta and he told me he learned Izia, I jumped for joy because I've been wanting to learn that book. I just found out about it. So all of this is new to many of us in the study circle. That's why we started the Seeker Space, so we could learn and study together. Whatever our teachers are teaching us, we spread it amongst ourselves. You see what I'm saying? But just don't look at it as, oh, this is just all Imam Malik's views. No, he's the foundation, but there are other scholars within the school. And as Meta teaches you, that's why they call it a muqaddimah. It's an intro. That means introduction. These are introductory books that teach the beginner Maliki faith. He wanted to do this biography so we can understand the founder of our school, and not even just about the school, a great imam in general. Any books we study together, we're going to learn the biography of the scholar, because when you don't know who the scholar is or the author of the book, you won't understand the book. The book might have been written at a certain time for a certain reason. Like, for example, Imam Ghazali's Ihya Ulum Uddin, the revival of the Islamic sciences. It's a very popular book, a classic text, but he didn't write it for regular Muslims. He wrote it for other scholars, but it's read by regular Muslims. But you need to know that in the beginning, like when he wrote this book, there's high level language. It's a lot of it's a very large book and it's very in depth, but it wasn't meant for the average person. So these are just the importances. And you also need to learn the scholars to know who you're learning from. Learning that Imam Malik died in 179, that's the 2nd century. That's from the generations. He's from people say, oh, I follow the Sunnah. How can you not learn from Imam Malik? How can you not learn from one of the 4 imams? Because you don't know the dates of when they died, or even less than that. You have scholars that when he's giving you the chain, when they learn from Umar, Umar's son, the student of Umar. May Allah be pleased with all of them. You're learning from the mother of the believers, Aisha. This is also something you can teach your daughter and your wives. Look at the level of scholarship Aisha is amongst those names. We wouldn't know anything about the Prophet ﷺ, what he did in his home, without Aisha. She gave fatwa. She gave tafsir of the Quran. She wasn't just walking around in hijab. They weren't just making babies. They were studious. They were knowledgeable. This is an inspiration for our sisters to learn. Look at her name. She's the only woman up there with all the boys. In the boys club, she right there. Bam. She is a source for us. Her rulings matter. Her words matter. The women matter. So just always keep that in mind, that when you're learning a school, whatever school you pick, even if you decide you don't want to learn from the Maliki school, whatever school you're learning from, you're not just learning from that imam. You're learning from hundreds, if not thousands, of scholars that have come down the line that helped to codify this school. Because as Brother Matta said, Imam Malik didn't start the school. He was just teaching, and his teachings were made into the foundation of the school. So, and then as some of the students learn and got their own knowledge, well, I disagree with Imam Malik. And then you also have to remember, Imam Malik never left Medina. So when the school started to spread in Iraq, in Egypt, in Italy, and southern Spain and Andalusia, it was different there than it was in Medina. So sometimes the rulings had to be different. The school in Iraq was more opinion. It was more stronger into opinion than just hadith. Because in Iraq, that was the thing. Qiyas was very popular. Imam Malik didn't like Qiyas. That he didn't have to use a lot of Qiyas because he had the Sahabas there. They don't have the Sahabas in Iraq. Once you get 100 something years later, we don't have the Sahaba. So now we have to go with opinions a little bit more. So it changed and it evolved, but the foundation stayed the same. So just always keep that in mind, and don't let when people move their feet. My intendant, she goes through the same thing, and it was really bothering her about people moving their feet away. And I told her what I was told many years ago. We used to grab people's legs. When I was Salafi, we would grab your pants and bring your leg over. Like we was doing this in the middle of the prayer, like aggressive, like, yo, what are you doing? I don't want the shaitan next to me. But in the meantime, I just broke my prayer. You're saying things you shouldn't be saying and doing movements that are not acceptable in the prayer. You just invalidated your prayer by grabbing somebody's leg, and it's removing your concentration from Allah. So when you say takbir, if that brother moves his feet, mashallah, he's wrong. Don't allow that to. That's the shaitan. That's the shaitan trying to cause dissension. Make dua for that brother while you praying. May Allah guide this brother to implement the sunnah a little bit better. And he may have been taught that. He might not know that what he's doing is wrong. So we always have to keep these things in mind. So always remember that, bro. The school is not just Imam Malik. He was the founder. It's his foundations, but there's other scholars within the school. And as you learn, you will get that. And I will say another thing. Yeah, he can redo the slide, but in the future, you have to learn to take notes. I don't mean to be hard on you, but we have to do that, because the way of learning Islam is to listen, to record, to memorize, and then practice. We can't always expect someone, because we from America, that's what we expect. Yeah, he can send you the slides, but the next time you're in class, you have to make sure you have your pen and paper. You have to take notes. You have to learn. No. Listen, I'm not knocking. I'm just saying. And for yourself, for any classes, this is a part of the adab of seeking knowledge. The reason why you write is because as you write, it's going to etch in your memory a little bit better. So when he resends you this, make sure you write it down. Don't just rely on your device. Write this stuff.
No, absolutely. That's why kind of why like I wanted. That's kind of why.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's why like
Yeah.
for me is
It's
like when I'm rereading something, like you said, is like taking notes and writing it. So absolutely.
Yeah, no, and I I'm a little bit hard like that. I hate to keep bringing up my fiance does the same thing. You kind of harsh, but that's because that's how my teachers were with me. They don't.
But you have to be
They
though.
were traditionally because in America we lazy. We look at things like, oh, we got the 10-minute grace period before we late for class. We don't take things serious. We don't approach knowledge the same way. One of my teachers told me a story, and then I'm gonna shut up. My teacher told me a story. He was in Yemen, and he said all the students was like 50 of them. They go to this class, and when they get there, the janitor dude was cleaning up the classroom. They say, "Yo, where's the sheikh?" They say, "Oh, he left. He was already here 5 minutes ago." They say, "Yo, we only 10 minutes late." So the next day, the sheikh came. They were all on time. The sheikh told them, "You don't come late. I should never have to wait for you. You're in need of the knowledge. The knowledge is not in need of you." And that relates to a story from Imam Malik. When one of the rulers at the time asked him to teach private lessons to him and his children, Imam Malik said, "No, you can come to the classes like everybody else." He said, "Well, we're going to sit in the front." He said, "No, you won't. The front is reserved for my top students. They will sit in the back with the rest of the new students." So he said, "Why are you treating me like this? I'm the ruler." Imam Malik said, knowledge doesn't go to you. You go to it. He humbled him. And you know what that ruler did? He went and he sat in the back with his kids. Imam Malik didn't compromise, because this is a part of adab, mannerism, showing respect to your sheikh. Even if it's on a phone screen, you show respect. You listen. You take notes and you memorize. They say it's ilm, then it's memorization, and then it's fahmi. That's how you gain understanding. The ulama say that I would not have learned anything from this deen if not for writing it down, because as you get older, your mind doesn't stay sharp. So when you write things down, you can reference it. So I'm not attacking you. This is a reminder for all of us, because I was the same way. But this is how we learn how to study as Muslims. You see what I'm saying? So that's just for you, for your future, for everybody listening. Always keep good at that. There's a real good book I'm gonna share in the group chat by Imam Kinani Jama on the etiquettes of the student of knowledge and how he should treat his teacher. And we're gonna get into a text by Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba that's about Rahimullah, that's about adab as well. So I just wanted to say that to you, bro. But don't stress about that. I lived in PA. I know what you're going through. Up there in Harrisburg. Just try your best, bro, to do your salat, get tunnel vision, and don't worry about that. You know what I'm saying? If you
Nah,
can't
for
go to the
sure.
masjid where they
I
foot
was
to
like
foot, you know,
today.
vision, bro. Tunnel vision.
There was one brother. I was like, is this brother trying to do a pistol squat that he's trying to get one leg, running away? But it is what it is.
Yeah, and
But not,
that's distracting you from what you do. So don't even worry about that, bro.
not,
Really,
and
at the end of the day, that's on him. You know what I
not,
mean?
and definitely, I would say as far as I never would take anything harsh like that. Like this isn't like being on the basketball court.
Yeah.
This isn't a football field. This is our afterlife. This is our game we're playing. Like not playing with, but we are learning. So I appreciate it. Better call on feet.
Yeah, that was a very good explanation, Hanif. I wanted to add a quick point.
Mashallah, man.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say,
I'm gonna go ahead.
Right.
I don't want to get muted by the
Right.
sister. Shut up.
To you, brother Hamza, another thing about the difference of opinion, a lot of that comes from the students of the Mujtahid Imams. So some students write certain things down, and that particular stream of knowledge might have went there, and that gets into the spread of the Maliki madhab. So we're gonna eventually touch into those topics.
All right.
So I think I'm gonna stop the recording. We can continue to
You're
talk,
live.
but I think I should stop the recording.
Hey,